Okay, time for a little video. I'm going to try to keep it short and simple. My point is, there are a lot of people who, as they come into the truth, they have a lot of zeal and they want to instantly go out there and teach. But the danger of that is that your misunderstanding will become amplified. And as you speak into the congregation, in your ignorance, you can mislead others and cause them to stumble. So that's a very dangerous thing. So I'm speaking against a lot of the camp mentality. Those who truly found Yahuwah found him by themselves, and they were not a part of a camp or congregation or followers of any preachers or teachers on YouTube, like many of you are. So this video is both to call out the lies so that those with an ear may hear, and those with eyes to see already see. So the two things I want to address, and it's not the major thing is knowing Yahuwah by name and getting his name right, and we'll see that shortly. But wherever there's a lie, it is our duty to address it, or if a misunderstanding. So you're supposed to give yourself over to study for so many years. And then when things are confirmed by the scripture, then with fear, you should go out there and speak and preach the truth, checking and showing your work. Showing your work means to show it with the word of Yah, scriptures, because his word affirms itself. We don't prove his word proves men. The two things I want to address is this, it's a lie and it's a misunderstanding, and I get it. Everyone's saying that a third of us are going to make it. That's not true. As the Apostle Paul said, any man who covers his head dishonors his head. What that means is that any Hebrew man that follows after another man or a teacher dishonors the Messiah, because we're supposed to get our information directly from him. And I recognize camp doctrine when I see it. Another big lie is that the white man is Esau. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because it's just ridiculous. I did that years ago. But this one right here is the misunderstanding and the lie that a third of us is going to make it. And I've been posting this for the longest. A lot less than a third is going to make it. Those who falsely teach that in error are coming out of the book of Zechariah. But before I go there, I want to turn your attention to the book of Luke chapter 21. Luke 21, verse 22. For his majesty said something. And here is a key that should give you a greater understanding as to how scripture fulfills. And he spoke on this wise. He said, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Now listen to that. First of all, he said the days that we're living in are the days of vengeance. That's the days that we're falling by the sword, we're being killed off and purged. And this is the key point. He said that all things written that may be fulfilled. That means all the prophecies in the Old Testament and the New shall be fulfilled in this time. So whether you know it or not, people saying that Esau is still on the earth. No, that has already fulfilled. The seed of Esau has already been wiped out. The book of Obadiah is one chapter. I want to tell you quickly to just read it and then turn your attention to, because it said that he would be wiped out by the heathen. We're captivity to the heathen. A lot of folks wrongly teach that the Native Americans or Indians are a tribe of Israel, and that's false. They were our brother, Esau. And we were not supposed to hate or despise him because he was our biological brother, aka also known as the red man. But his seed has been totally annihilated by the heathen. When you go to the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, you'll see that. It's plain and simple. When you think about the smallpox and everything that the heathen did, put it on the blankets, and wiped them out. So that's, again, remembering his majesty said that all things written by the prophets be fulfilled. Okay, so that's been fulfilled. Esau's, and then when you also read in the book of Obadiah, he also say, so how are the things of Esau still even being brought up? He's talking about to these people who've not studied to show themselves approved. So he's basically saying, how are you still talking about Esau? How is his things being searched out and even brought up? He said, if it was not by him, he would have left some grapes on the vine. So his seed is totally not amongst us. The heathen totally destroyed all the males and they raped the women. And you have something that looks like the Native American. It's not. They have blonde hair, blue eyes, many of them. They don't look like the original people. The original Indians, the tribes of Esau, looked a lot like us. because they were our biological brother. Okay, now moving away from that, this 1/3 false doctrine. Let's go there. They get this doctrine from Zechariah chapter 13, and I'm gonna read it to you. And it's near the end of the chapter, and I'm gonna prove it that that's wrong. Zechariah chapter 13, verse 9. He says, "And I will bring the third part through the fire." Okay, well let's go before that. Verse 8, he says, "And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith Yahuwah, 2 parts shall be cut off and die." So you got a pie here, a whole pie. He said 2 parts, 2 out of 3, 2/3 of that pie. You know how to draw 2/3 will be cut off. Let's do 3 fingers. 2 parts will be cut off. And as he's talking about when we were in Jerusalem, when they were ransacked by the Greeks and the Romans, they killed 2/3 of us. Okay. And he said, "But the third shall be left alive." So that's a third right there. Okay. Now let's examine this 1/3. And he said, "And I will bring the third part through the fire and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Yahuwah is my God." Now, let's take this 1/3 that everyone says is going to make it back. Okay, Yahuwah said at the mouth of Zechariah in verse 9, he said, "I will refine them as silver and gold." Well, you have to know something about the refining process. You don't get 100% out of the refining process. So out of this third, when you refine silver or gold from ore, the term ore and refinement means to extract something from the ore. When you get silver and gold from ore, right now that third is referring to the ore. And we're in the days of vengeance. A lot of us are fallen by the sword and did not. And the sister verse to that, we're going to prove it by scripture, is Ezekiel. He prophesied the same thing when Yahuwah commanded him to do these things. And it's in Ezekiel chapter 5. And he told Ezekiel, I think I got it pulled up here. If not, he told Ezekiel, let's go to, I think it's Ezekiel chapter 5, verse 2. So you can turn there real quickly. I just wanted to get this out there because a lot of people, it's not a major thing, but it's still an untruth. And you have to understand that, you know, when you preach something wrong and people believe that, it says these days will be as it was in the days of Noah. Well, in Noah's day, very, very few people made it. And you have to understand the smelting process. To extract gold and silver, you have to first get the silver out of the ore. And then when you refine it in a furnace and purify it, all the impurities are going to be what? Burnt up and consumed in the fire. And that fire is representative of the word of Yah, or the word of Yahuwah. Because he said, "Is not my word like fire?" And he wrote that, and he spoke that in Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 29. He says, "Is not my word like a fire, saith Yahuwah, and like a hammer that break the rock into pieces?" And that's how you extract gold and silver from ore. First, you have to break the rocks and get the actual precious metal out of it. And that's even before it goes into the furnace, where the furnace consumes all the other particles and it comes off like slag and it's burnt up. It's a byproduct. And then what you're left is pure silver and gold. So the extraction process might yield a very small percent. You might have a pound of ore, and after the refinement and everything, you might come out with a tenth of that, and by weight would be pure silver or pure gold. And another thing, Jeremiah, Yahuwah spoke at the mouth of Jeremiah when he said, "Wherefore thus saith," this is Jeremiah 5:14, "Wherefore thus saith Yahuwah, God of hosts, because you speak this word, behold, I will make my words in your mouth, and this people wood, and it shall consume them." So there you have also the refinement process. Out of his elect's mouth, his word is going to proceed like fire. It's going to consume people, offend them, and that's also going to be part of the refinement process. Okay, now I was trying to go to Ezekiel. I believe it's Ezekiel chapter 5, and you can, okay, here we go. Ezekiel chapter 5. Now, remember, we first went to Zechariah 13. That's where those who are just haven't studied to show themselves approved are getting this false 1/3 doctrine. But here's the witness. The witness is Ezekiel, because at the mouth of 2 or 3, the matters are established. And that goes for the scriptures as well. Okay, Yahuwah commanded Ezekiel to do this, and listen. Chapter 1, he says, and you, son of man, okay, he didn't say human, son of man. That's the seed of his original creation. He said, take you a sharp knife, even take a barber's razor that you would trim your hair, and cause it to pass upon your head and upon your beard. He told him to shave parts of his hair and his beard off, and he said, take it and weigh it in the balances. That means to be judged. When he says to weigh it in the balance, and he says divide the hair. And on this wise is how he told him to divide it. Verse 2, he said, you shall burn with fire a third of it. Here's the 3 parts again. A third of it he burned. That consumed a third of it. And he said, when the days of the siege are fulfilled, that's when the Romans came and ransacked us. And he said, you shall take a third part, that's another third. And he said, and you shall stab about it with a knife. Another third fell by the sword of the Romans. Okay, so there's a third left. That's the same third spoke of in Zechariah 13 that those who haven't studied are saying is going to make it into the kingdom. But we're going to find out what happened to this third. And he said, and a third part, this last third, he said, you shall scatter to the wind. So, okay, that third out of that hole, and he said, and I will draw out a sword after them. So that third is those of us that were scattered into the nations. So we know ever since the transatlantic slave trades, that's that third. And then we've been thrown overboard by, thrown over the hulls of ships, eaten by sharks. We've been lynched. We've been killed. That's part of the refining process. It's consuming even to this generation we're in. You see the crime on the South Side. That's the sword. That's his sword. That's avenging the quarrel of the covenant because we broke his commandments. It's still refining. And now in this day, the truth is coming out sevenfold because we have social media and other places. It's getting out more. And there are those who are still making their necks stiff and they're not repenting, and they're going to fall by the sword. That's all part of the refinement process. So out of that third that was scattered, it's going to be a very, very, very small remnant that's going to return and be redeemed. So, I've seen a lot of, young men that are new in the truth. They're full of zeal, and they want to get out here and make themselves teachers, and inadvertently they mislead the sheep. And right there, it tells you plainly, less, and I've been saying this, only a remnant. It will be as it was in the days of Noah. Very much less than a third is going to make it. You have the 2 witnesses, Zechariah and Ezekiel. A third was cast to the wind. We're going through the refinement process. His word is purging us like fire. And keep in mind, as it pertains to his name, everybody, that's calling on a false name. He only has one name. Some people don't even spell Yahuwah's name properly phonetically. It's Yahuwah. It's not no Yahuwah, and that grieves me because he say, and those who are refined and make it through, he say they will call on my name. And he say, and I will call them my people, because his name is, if there's anything you have to get right, it's his name. You have to get every part of it right. To call him Yahuwah, and you put an apostrophe where there should be a wah, because the wah is the 6th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and that's what it's called, the wah. Wah is a natural sound, and what you do is you recreate that sound in the language that you're translating it in. So a wah would be properly phonetically reproduced by the W. It has nothing to do with the existence of a W, because the Hebrew language is the pure language of heaven. It was the first language that all men spoke in the earth before Babel. Babel means confused. When Yahuwah confused the languages of men, he confused everybody except the Hebrews, who continued to speak divine language. And there are no silent letters in Yahuwah's name. That wah by itself is a conjunction. It means and in continuance of. It's no silent letters. So when you look things up on Blue Letter Bible or the Strong's Concordance, take it with a grain of salt. They did a decent and a very good job of translating a lot of those things. But as far as pronunciations and true spiritual meanings, you take it with a grain of salt, because they're not Hebrews. Their spirit is contrary. Thus, they speak with a confounded tongue. They're seeing Hebrew from the aspect of English or French or the languages of the Gentiles. But us being natural Hebrews, having the spirit of Yahuwah in us, the language itself is spiritually discerned, and there are no silent characters, none whatsoever. So You have to be careful being, going out there jumping to teach when you don't have a full understanding or you don't know Yahuwah by name. And if you don't know Yahuwah's name and you can't get the Father's name right, you definitely going to be in error when it comes to the Son's name. Why? Because the Father's name is the beginning of the Son's name. And I've taught on this and I've posted on this for many years, but it's only going to reach those who have an ear to hear. The Son. I don't want to go into that. That's a whole nother lesson. But I just wanted to address here that third doctrine is false. It's going to be a lot less. That third was scattered to the wind, and they're going to be refined as gold and silver. And to go through the fire, when you extract pure gold or pure silver from its ore form, you have to break the rocks. You got to extract the ore, and then you got to put it in a hot furnace, and all the impurities rise up to the slot like slag to the top. You have to have some knowledge of smelting, and then it's burned off. And what you're left with is a very small fraction. You might start off with a bucket of ore and end up with a cup full of pure gold or silver. So that's a lot less than a third, fellas. So I just wanted to share that because, there's so many small things. Some are greater than others. It's not a big deal, but it's still something that you should be concerned with. Because like he said, broad and wide is the path to destruction. And very many be upon that path. But straight and narrow is the path to salvation and righteousness, and few be upon that path. So this is not a game. When you get out there and open your mouth, we're going to have to give an account for every word that we've spoken to the congregation, and as far as its truthfulness. And I'm confident that the things that I've given you are true. Why? Because the word, his word itself, affirms what I've just told you. It will be much less than a third. And with that, I'll end it.